Today I'm turning my chair planter into the scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz as part of my Wizard of Oz theme. I'm going to start by showing you how to make the head and upper body section, which just hangs onto the chair back easily. Right, I just need to make the scarecrow head. So a piece of material, I'm going to glue it into a tube. Right, so I'm just going to glue that edge. Then, and on here, I'm going to glue another piece of material because this isn't really wide enough, so that I can gather it in with string and make it look like a bag gathered in for the scarecrow's neck. Right, I've stuck an extra piece on. Now we're going to glue the sides to make a tube. Better to leave this bit unconnected so that it will kind of splay out more when it's in situ. Next thing is to stitch this top edge. I'm doing a running stitch here to gather it all in along the selvage edge. If your fabric hasn't got this selvage edge, you might need to run some glue along the top to support the edge before you do this running stitch. You won't see this top bit because it's going to be under his hat. Right, now we need to stuff this. It's the basis of our scarecrow head. Got to decide on a face now. Right, I've decided to make the scarecrow a nose, a three-dimensional nose, and I'm considering sculpting his mouth, his cheeks and his eyes, but let's see how the nose turns out first. So I've cut a triangle to make the nose and a smaller triangle to kind of make the underneath of the nose like that. I'm going to put glue on the edges to support the edges, and then I'm going to stitch them together. I decided to stitch them together rather than glue because they're going to be stronger and neater than having a thick line of glue that might just pull away. I'm going to stitch this in, I hope. Unglued side outwards. Let's just make sure I've got the middle. Little crease up the middle. Okay, cooking on gas. Right, I've decided to stitch this right sides out with a little blanket stitch, rather than try to sew it inside out and then turn it, because I think even with the glue it would just open up. The glued edge will just pull it apart. Okay, there's our nose. To make it look more like his features of coming out through the sack, like it would if you put the sack over a head. Oh, not that I know. Decided to kind of gather this underneath bit of the nose a bit. I'm going to stitch it in place. I might put a bit of glue first. A little bit of stuffing on the top there. That's good. Tiny bits Right, I'm not going to try gluing it anymore, I'm just going to stitch it down to there. That's it. That's better. Definitely need to stitch it. Oh, that's not bad. Right, sir. Any particular choice of chin you would like? Right, let's have a look. Right, eyes next. Let's stuff the cheeks. Push the stuffing up into where the cheeks will be at the side of his nose. And then we get like a little indent where the eyes go. There. Right, let's get some thread. Let's get some needle and thread done up. I'm going for a bigger needle, 4 strands of the thread. You start at the back, pushing the needle through from the back to the front to the corner of where you want the eye to be, the inner corner. Then you go across about 2.5 centimetres to the outer corner of where the eye will be, and you push the needle through to the back again. Then you pull the thread just tight enough to give an indent in the eye area. It's better. Right, so let's just knot this. And go back through. See, we've got a little bit of shape there now. Go back through. Repeat it, pulling the thread tight. That's it. That's better. That's the best I'm going to achieve there. I'll come to this side. Let's just now get the cheekbone in place there. And do the other side. Okay, let's have a look. Yep. Might work. I'll just pull this area in. Right, so I've gone from the back, come through the corner of his mouth, and now normally what I would do, if the mouth's not in place, I'd go across to this corner, through the front to the back, and pull it tight. I've sewn through the area once, I'm just doing it the second time. And pull it. You get the idea. And that's it, and that gives you your mouth. Right, I wanted to define his eyes. I've just got the dent in there, you know, the little stitched plain area. And I told you the idea of making eyelids and putting the eye in between there, but I thought it might look a little bit freaky. So I've just outlined an eye with these pens. They're acrylic paint markers, but I'm using them on here because they've got a more intense colour than like felt pens. So I just want to give the idea of an eye. I still think it looks a bit freaky. Okay, let's move on to making the upper body now. So what I want is to create the shoulders on a coat hanger, and I want him supported on this with the shoulders in this brown fabric, which I bought from Amazon. So let's start that bit. To make it easier to fit him onto the shoulders, let's just put an elastic band on and pull that neck into how it's meant to look. Right, I'm just tracing the outline around the coat hanger to get the front and back body pieces. I'm making the front longer than the back. Right, I'll stitch these right sides together. I've hand stitched around, and here I'm just snipping the curves to allow it to turn and sit properly on the hanger. Right, next thing we need to do is going to be sitting on there, and we want some hay hanging out of the sacking. So I'm going to make a hay necklace to tie on, just a case of knotting little clumps of the raffia onto one long length and tying the ends together. So then what the idea is, so I tie them around here, and when his head goes on there, it looks like it's the straw hanging out. Right, with my acrylic paint markers, I'm now going to create a patch on here. I just think this is a nice little detail to add to the front. Very simple. We turn it to the back and just lightly stuff to give it a little bit of shape. Then I'll seal the edge with the hot glue. Right, I'm going to try and glue it to start with and then stitch. Now I need the head far enough down that it's not kind of top heavy, because this will splay out after around there. So we want it high enough. If I get it wrong with stitching, I can undo the stitching, but not with the glue. The glue might support the fabric better than just stitching, because this is quite fragile stuff, this hessian. Right, before I stitch this kind of down onto here, I need to put a bit more stuffing in there and then arrange this around there and then sew that. Okay, let's stitch this at the shoulders. Start up here. I'm just going to sew that sacking down now around that front edge to stop the stuffing from coming out. Now, I've got his hat. I might make him a hat just for the purpose of people who want to make him. The hat is made up of a round brim and a kind of a flared cone shape, which I'm estimating the size of, and then I'll trim it down as I go. Right, this is what we've got. Then we have to make a brim. We fold it over, we glue it down that side, and we've got a little cone hat. Just going to glue it. Now, for the brim, a dinner plate. Now, because this isn't double-sided, this fabric, you'd need two brims, one to put on top of the other, right sides out. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do the one brim. Ideally, you'd use two.
and you place them right sides together, sew a narrow seam around this outer edge, and then turn them right way out, and you have a perfect finished edge. What I'd usually do here is draw around another circle in the middle, a plate or something similar, and then I'd measure in from that to cut my rim a bit smaller. I want the rim wider than that, but it's a starting point. Right, let's measure and mark it as we go to make sure. Mark it this inner circle. Now what I do is make little slits in here all the way around to make it fit, just so that we can fit it over the body of the hat. The hat is slightly too big for the scarecrow's head, so I'm trimming it. As I said, I might need to, and then I'm going to re-glue it. We don't want much of a brim, but we do want it to fit. Let me see whether this fits on his head. This fits his head fine. If it was a bit small, I'd make those splits a little bit deeper in the brim. I just need to attach it to the hat now. Right. Turn the hat right way out. The next part is to stitch the hat and the brim together. So I need to mark up mark it into quarters basically, and the same with the hat. We pin, and we just match up those quarters. Now it's time to pin together the brim and the hat, first matching up these quarterly marks with the pins. Pin those in place first, and then stretch the brim edge to fit the hat edge and pin it all in place. Right, I'm just sewing the brim on now with very tiny stitches. You could sew this on your sewing machine if you prefer. Okay, I've finished stitching it and that's come out fine. But we'll see how it looks on him in a minute. And then I've got some string to put around here as well. So let's go and try it on Mr. Scarecrow. See how it looks. It's quite good. And I've got some string tied. Just undo it. I quite like that. Right, let's show you how to make those trousers. Now, I'm making trousers from a chair, which sounds a bit odd. I've measured the leg length, which is this, and that's the centre. This bit here is the centre of the front of the chair. It's a chair planter. Then these bits are going to come to the back. I'm not having trousers on the back because it's a two-legged scarecrow. These legs will each have a back, just from there down, and each have a back. It's best if I sew them and put them on the chair, and then all will be revealed. I'm just going to hand stitch these side seams to form the trouser legs. I've sewn the 4 side seams and the centre what would be the fly of the trousers. Let's go and see how these fit. Right, I'm just securing the sides of the trousers now. Right, the sides of the trousers are secured just at the back there with wire. Right, the next stage, I'm attaching these raffia cuffs that I had from a costume. I'm attaching them under the hem of the trousers, and then I'll secure the bottom of the trousers with an elastic band. I could have chosen to make a raffia cuff like I did the necklace, the raffia necklace, but these just look a bit more dramatic. In theory, he's finished, but I'm here looking at the material, wondering if I've got enough to make him some simple arms. Right, I've cut the 2 sleeves. Just going to turn them right sides in to just do a little running stitch along these edges. Then I'll turn them right sides out. Right, I've turned it right side out. We need to now finish the cuffs off and attach it into the body. These are just raffia cuffs I had with a costume. And inside the sleeve with elastic around the cuff. Right, I'm going to just put a bag inside to give it a tiny bit of stuffing just in the bottom of the arm. Near the wrist, just to puff it out a bit. I'll just glue the arm in. I'm just opening this up a bit to fit the arm in. Right, he's finished at last. He's got his arms in place. He's got a nice belt tied around his waist. But can you do this from an ordinary chair? Right, if you haven't got a chair planter, you can make a chair planter from a normal wooden chair you can get from a thrift store or an antiques fair very cheaply. And all you would do is, where the seat is, you'd put a bowl, just a square washing up bowl. And you see where this is basically where my bowl is, if you like. This is the container bit of my planter. So all you would do is, on top of your seat you'd have a bowl. You'd extend your trousers so that they cover that bowl, the end of that bowl. It's just be exactly the same as I've got there, except your legs of your trousers would be longer and look a bit better. So this would be covered by this trouser skirt that you've made. The other thing you could do is to completely, from your chair, completely remove your pad from the middle and suspend wire across from one side to the other and front to back, and sink your bowl into there and then make your trousers. But it is possible and quite easy to do this from an ordinary chair. Next, I'm making the Tin Man from a chimney, so come back again.